everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar is 7 ways to get your presentation started. Some of us read newspapers, some of us read magazines, some of us read journal articles. And I get the Harvard Business Review delivered every 2 months. I also read the newspaper, and I just want to let you know that I don't read every article. I don't read every article in the newspaper. I don't read every article in the Harvard Business Review. What I do is I scan the headline and I scan maybe the first paragraph or the first few sentences. And then I decide if I'm going to continue reading that article. When you start a presentation, your first 30 seconds is the headline of your presentation. It's the headline of your public speaking. And whether we like it or not, it may determine whether your audience decides, I want to hear more, I need to pay attention here, or whether they start searching their emails, their smart devices, doing a Facebook post, or start thinking about what they're going to have for lunch today. So good morning, everyone. Peter Dew's my name, public speaking trainer and coach, and specialise in helping people be more confident, more effective, and get their message across in your public speaking. As always, please ask questions as we go. You can type in the Q&A or the chat section, and I will see that and be able to respond at various times. I may pause and ask for some questions as well. Take notes as you go. Participate by adding your own comments, your own thoughts. Maybe you have another way you've seen someone start a presentation that you've thought, wow, that's really quite effective. That's got my attention. I'm going to share with you 7 ways that I start, that I know can give you a strong start. And most importantly, think and apply what I'm teaching you to your own personal circumstances. So what I mean by that, have you got a presentation or a training coming up in the future? What are you going to do differently in the way that you start? I think the most important thing with training is that each and every one of us grab 1, maybe 2 things that we think we can use in our own journey, in our own public speaking style. Otherwise, you're just listening to me and there's no change, there's no action, there's no difference. So why open strong? And I mentioned it's like reading a headline. Whether it's an online journal, as I talk about reading newspapers, probably about 70% of my audiences now don't read newspapers. They don't consume their content in the written newspaper, but they do online. They read online journals and online updates. And if you're a professional, you will get your professional journal, the engineer's journal, the health journal. And as I said, the Harvard Business Review is the journal that I get. So the headline is, your first words are your headline. Now, if I can put just a little bit of science behind this, it's called the rule of primacy. And what behavioral psychologists say and what they understand is apparently the first words people say, in other words, that opening statement, is likely to be remembered by the audience. So I describe it as valuable real estate. So with that valuable real estate, it's important to grab attention, to create relevance, to let people know they're in the right room for the issue, for the problem that they're facing. I always say that first words matter. So the metaphor, think of your opening statement as the headline, which determines whether I pay attention, whether my ears prick up or whether I zone out and think about that nice sushi I'm going to have for lunch just across the road. Or maybe I'll go to Vietnamese. They do a really good banh mi over there. What do I fancy today? What are you going to say at your next presentation that's really going to grab attention and set the scene for what is to come? Mistakes, common mistakes is, good morning, everyone. My name's Peter Dew. It's a real pleasure to be here. Can I get you to turn your mobile phones off? The toilets are down the corridor. And this is polite housekeeping type stuff. I would encourage you to delay your housekeeping until after you've grabbed attention. So start strong, get people's attention, and then step into the housekeeping. So thank you all for coming today. We'll take questions as we go. We'll have a break at 10:30, etc., etc. So how can we start strong? The first one is ask a rhetorical question. What would you do if you were in that situation? So how many people in the room, if they had to retire now, have got enough financial resources to live the retirement lifestyle that you would want? So when I work in the space of overcoming your fear of public speaking, I often start with this statement or these questions. This is my first words. So I don't say, good morning, everyone. How are you? Please have a seat. Morning tea's at 10:30. I don't say that. Everyone's coming in, they've taken their seat. I haven't said a word yet. I now take the stage, take the platform, stand in front of the room, and this is how I start. So who in the room's a little bit afraid of public speaking? Who's got some nerves, some anxiety around public speaking? Who in the room's not comfortable with in front of 100, 200, 300 people? Who would find improved public speaking would help them in their career, in their job, in their everyday life? Who would find improved public speaking skills would help that journey? Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Peter Dew, and welcome to How to Overcome Your Fear of Public Speaking. So the question takes people into the space. And when you ask a question, people start to think, I don't need an answer. It's a rhetorical question. And you may have noticed that I lead by putting my own hand up. So I volunteer that I also do have some nerves around public speaking. I get a bit nervous in front of 150, 200, 300 people. And indeed, in my career as a public speaking trainer and coach, I also would benefit from improved public speaking skills. And I do go and watch great public speakers so I can learn their craft, learn their art, and take away something from them. So I'm on this continuing learning as well. So don't be afraid to lead the question. So who's ever received a spam email? Who's ever had an antivirus message? Do not click on this link. Good morning, everyone. Today I want to talk to you about cybersecurity and how we can prevent cyber theft, hacking. And I was reading in today's newspaper, one of the headlines was that over 500,000 Australians are going to be scammed in the next 12 months by fake Australian Tax Office websites, ABNs, tax file numbers that are fake, and people pay a fee when both your ABNs, you're setting up a business, your tax file numbers are free. So it's the rhetorical questions that gets people attention, especially if they're in that area that you're speaking about. Just another one, small business. I'm in small business. I've been in small business for 14 years. Who's heard that 90% of small businesses go broke in the first 5 years of business? Who's heard that statistic? Who knows that the biggest problem with business, small business, is not planning to fail, but rather failing to plan? Good morning, everyone. I'm a small business coach, and I want to talk to you about setting up your small business. Now, of course, I would be training in the area of small business. So I'd have a group of people in the room that want to learn about setting up a small business. So they're grabbing a question, grabbing their attention with a rhetorical question sets the scene for what I'm going to teach them. Any remarks, any comments, please just type in the chat box. Be controversial to get people's attentions. When the heckles, when the back of their hair rises, you know you've got their attention. So be prepared to be controversial and speak about something that's going to really grab people's attentions. And I've just got a few topics there. I know over East, Victoria, New South Wales, your electricity generation, your ability to have continuity of electricity supply in peak demand periods is not always there. And maybe I'm going to talk about solar and about going green and how we can all save electricity. Just imagine if I started by saying, so I'm going to talk to you, I think we should embrace nuclear energy, and I think Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland should each have one major nuclear reactor to generate electricity. Most people are going to sit upright, they're going to be angry, and I've got their attention. I can now say, all right, I can clearly see that not everyone is keen to embrace nuclear energy. What I want to talk about is how we can generate green energy, how we can reduce our carbon footprint to be more sustainable, but have continuity of electricity supply. What's something that you can be controversial that when you first speak it, explain it, it gets everyone's attention. And then you step down and you deliver your content. I've mentioned euthanasia, less controversial now as the Assisted Dying Act is in many states around Australia for those people with terminal illness. Medical marijuana, also less controversial. And scientific evidence that it helps some people with epilepsy and other types of seizures. Make an eye-catching, ear-catching, gut-wrenching statement. Excuse me. Say something that really grabs people's attention. The World Health Organization has come up with a statement that the world's ambition of a world where COVID vaccination, where all nations have COVID vaccination and we have the pandemic under control, is likely not to be reached. Because all the rich nations are vaccinating for the third and fourth time, and the majority of the world's population in other parts haven't even had their first vaccination. What can you say that is eye-catching or gut-wrenching? If we continue down this pathway of global warming, the tipping point will be reached by 2030. We have a very short window of time to turn around. And the world in 2030 will look like, and then you go into your description. Use a relevant and powerful quote, a quotation, something that's memorable, something that helps build credibility. I use quotes to start a number of my presentations. Around public speaking skills, I use a quote from Winston Churchill. So this is my opening. So I come on stage. So Winston Churchill said, if you can stand on your feet and speak to a group of people, you possess one of the world's most powerful skills. So Winston Churchill says, if you can stand on your feet and speak to a group of people, you possess one of the world's most powerful skills. Of course, he's talking about your ability to influence, to educate, to change people's minds, to move people to a different way of thinking. And as you know, many people have a fear of public speaking. So welcome to today's workshop on effective public speaking skills. What quotation sets the scene? Now, I mentioned can build credibility. Winston Churchill is renowned as one of the great orators, the great public speakers of all time. And by quoting him, so if Winston Churchill says this, it's a powerful skill, and I'm training you in public speaking because it's an important skill to have, and I'm saying the same thing as Winston Churchill, then I've just borrowed some credibility from Winston Churchill. And people who have a fear or struggle with public speaking, and another thing I teach is that it's a skill. So what you're learning today is a skill. Ralph Waldo Emerson, a Harvard professor, said all the great speakers were bad speakers once. Ralph Waldo Emerson said all the great speakers you see today were bad speakers once. And that's really good news. And what he's saying is that public speaking is a skill that we can learn. And it doesn't matter if you're nervous, doesn't matter if you're unsure of what to say, doesn't mind if your mind goes blank, it's a skill that you can learn. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to Effective Public Speaking Skills. What quote might you say that sets the scene for what you're going to be talking about? A quote that's memorable, that kind of grabs attention, relates to what you're talking about. I've given you public speaking quotes. How can you start? Does anyone have a quote, an idea, or have they seen someone start with a quotation? After the quotation, I then go into a little bit of an explanation, and then I welcome everyone. Morning teas at 10:30, toilets are down the corridor. But I like to create relevance first. All right. The next way to start a presentation is to tell a story. And some of the great public speakers just do that. Martin Luther King, when he has a dream. I sometimes start my presentations telling my story. Most of you will know that I'm a person who stutters, and I've had to overcome my stutter to move from fear, not being able to do public speaking, to doing public speaking, starting to get a few promotions within my career, to now doing public speaking for my full-time business, for my career. This is how I earn my living. And that story of overcoming my adversity, my fear, my stutter, my inability to do public speaking, to now making it my profession, sets the scene for the people that come to my workshops that have self-doubt, that worry about public speaking. What story can you tell that is going to set the scene? Maybe you're a financial planner and you tell a story of a client that came to you in their late 50s and they had about 7 years before they were going to retire. And to date, they hadn't started planning for their retirement and they were really worried. They were stressed. And what you did was you showed them as a financial planner, you showed them some strategies and some ways to build up their super and how they could fast track so that by the time they were 65, they could retire with a bit of peace of mind and the knowledge that they would have enough money to live a comfortable retirement. So that story would illustrate your skills, but it would also give people in the audience hope and knowledge that it's never too late to start planning for your retirement. What story can you tell that's going to illustrate the message you're going to be talking, that you're going to be training in? Number 6, the 6th way of starting a presentation. Paint a picture of the future. So this is a rosy future, I guess a bleak future or an uncertain future. Imagine a world where no one had to worry about their retirement. The old age pension was sufficient that you could live a life you wanted, go on a holiday around Australia, not have to worry about rising electricity prices or housing affordability or housing security. Imagine that world. And of course, there's the famous one by Bob Hawke. No child will live in poverty by the year 2010. That was one of the ways he started his presentation in relation to that topic. No child will live in poverty by the year 2010. And then he went back and spoke about their policies, their plans, and how they were going to reach that goal. One would argue that we never did reach that goal, and today children do live in poverty. And then there's the inconvenient truth. This is a movie, but it's a worldwide message that was rolled out by Al Gore. Al Gore was Vice President of the United States of America and lost the presidential election to George W. Bush. So was Vice President and runner-up in the presidential race. And he spoke about an inconvenient truth. And he spoke a picture of climate change. He painted a picture of climate change. And the movie shows, melting ice caps, melting glaciers, increasing global temperatures, shorelines eroded by rising sea levels. And his core message that this climate change is happening now, not in the future. This is what's happening now. And he painted a bleak future and then went into what we can do. So my question, what future can you paint that will grab your audience's attention, and then you may outline the steps? So imagine moving forward, you're now 65 years old and you're retired and you can do anything you want to. What are you doing in your retirement years? Are you traveling around the world? Are you driving your caravan around Australia following the sun like the grey nomads? Are you helping your children or your grandchildren get into their business, into their first home? What are you doing? Just imagine that ideal retirement. You've deserved this. Good morning, everyone. My name's Peter Dew and I'm a financial planner, and my passion is helping you achieve your retirement dreams. And I'm going to talk to you today 5 strategies that you can put in place to set you up for your retirement. Now, a very strong disclaimer. I am not a financial planner. I do not know anything about financial planning or retirement planning. This is not advice. And we're seeing in the newspaper, a lot of people are taking financial advice from people who are not licensed financial advisors. This was an example. Had a financial advisor wanted to start, that picture they paint, and then they step into the strategies and their planning process. And strategy number 7, start with some amazing statistics, something that grabs people's attention, something that really makes you sit up and think. Mental ill health costs the Australian workplaces. This is the workforce. This is not home. This is not personal cost. This is not family tragedy, family cost. This is business, 4.7 billion in absenteeism a year, according to the Mental Health Forum Australia. $4.7 billion of business money lost due to mental ill health. Good morning, everyone. My name is Peter Dew, and I'm going to talk to you about the importance of having a mental health first aid plan in your business, because I know you can't afford to lose that money from your business, and with the right strategies, with the right support, you can reduce that burden, that $4.7 billion burden. What statistic supports your message? Poor communication, this is where people misunderstand, they communicate poorly, costs $135 million for every 1 billion invested in a project, according to the International Project Management Institute. 135 million lost, wasted down the tube because of miscommunication for every $1 billion of investment in a project. Good morning, everyone. My name is Peter Dew, and I want to talk to you about effective communication and how, as project engineers, you can make sure your message matches the people you're working with and you don't waste that $135 million. So there we go. 7 strategies to start, grab attention. It's called the rule of primacy. First words matter, valuable real estate, rather than good morning, everyone. My name's Peter Dew. Can you turn your mobile phones off? We're going to have a nice cup of tea at 10:30. Toilets are down there. Don't forget to move your cars at 9:30 so you don't get a parking fine. Nice, polite rubbish. Grab attention, set the scene for what you're going to speak about. Ask a rhetorical question, be controversial, make an eye-catching statement, use relevant, powerful quote, tell a story that leads the way to what you're going to be talking about. Picture of the future, good picture, maybe a picture of risk, and start with a statistic that, whoa, 135 million. I can't afford to waste that sort of money. So coming up in May, simple guidelines to ensure a successful question and answer session. So you've finished your presentation, you're now going into Q&A. These are free 30-minute webinars. How do you set your scene? How do you use guidelines to make your Q&A, question and answer, run smoothly? And the opposite of today's, but equally important, 6 different ways to end your presentation. I always teach people to nail their ending. They're available for you should you wish to participate. Upcoming workshops, mostly in Karratha. I'm looking at coming to Melbourne and Victoria later in the year. You know how to reach me. I'd love your feedback. I'd love your information. your feedback, your comments, any requests on what you'd like to hear in future webinars, because my webinars are designed to serve you. So my question as we end, how are you going to start your next presentation? What are you going to do to grab attention, create relevance, and set the scene? Thanks, everyone.